Hello fellow duelists, it is the second time for me that I am recording this Gemini deck profile because I kind of thought to myself, do I really want to inflict people a fucking hour-long video detailing what every card does and a deck profile that isn't really well structured, and do I really want to upload that? And the answer is no, so I will try to keep this video as short as humanly possible. So without any further ado, let's get right into today's topic being Gemini, you got it right. So here is the decklist. First up, let me tell you that there is two versions of this decklist, and that is the one that was requested by a few people actually in my comments section. Sorry, I still got some COVID symptoms, I guess. I'm almost fully recovered, so whatever. That is the old decklist that you can see in all of my video about Geminites. The thing is, I kind of stopped playing this one copy of Into the Void and Pot of Desires because Pot of Desires just kept on banishing cards I don't want to banish, such as the entirety of my Gemnite Fusions or the entirety of my Gemnite Lazuli. Into the Void was just kind of whatever. I prefer to replace it with a red reboot, so we're directly moving to the decklist that I actually want to play, which has 3 droplets and the red reboot being for Illish, and Forbidden Droplet being for the Herald of Ultimateness and Perfection. So, as for the card effect, we're gonna kind of discuss it alongside the ratios, so that the deck profile will be a lot quicker. As for the OTK/FTK combo, because as you've seen in the titles of this video, this deck can also FTK, even though it is not its primary focus. I'm gonna show it to you briefly at the end of the video, but still there's a video coming tomorrow about the FTK, so stay tuned. Anyway, back to the deck list. So, the deck, the OTK version, focuses heavily on the Link Monster Gemnite Phantom Quartz. When summoned, you add whatever Gemnite card from your deck to your hand, and it has a wonderful effect that by paying 1000 life points, you can fusion summon whatever Gemnite monsters by shuffling back into your deck the materials from your graveyard and the banish pile. It synergizes perfectly with Gemnite Fusion, which lets you banish a Gemnite monster to add it back to your hand. Well, it's used to fusion Gemnite Fusion monsters, obviously. Because there is not a lot of ways to get to Gemnite Fusion, you have to resort on Absorb Fusion, and especially because Brilliant Fusion is limited. I don't play the Predaplant/Lone Blossom package because it literally dies to 1 trap, and even with Crystal Designator I feel it's not really worth it, especially considering that it's more useful for the pure FTK, but I'm gonna discuss it a bit later. The pure FTK it's not as great as the OTK variant, because it's way less consistent, and if you want to make it survive to more than 1 hand trap, well, you lose a lot in the consistency departments, and this version isn't known for its consistency either, so imagine. Well, that being said, the Gemini deck isn't really a deck in which there's a lot of linear combo. The most linear part is when you actually open the Brilliant Fusion, and you need to figure out the order in which you kind of want to activate Block Dragon, because it really depends on the situation and your resources in your hand, graveyard, as well as field. Technically it matters, and what you have and don't have. If you don't have Gemnite Fusion, well, you're literally deep down in the shit. And if you don't have enough normal monsters, or too much normal monsters you can open, you may as well be too much in the shit. Though when you open Block Dragon and have a lot of normal monsters, you're usually not so much in the shit. Either way, you play a playset of Lapis because it is literally the best normal monster you have access to, and having a playset, I mean, you can unexpected die plus rescue rabbit, and it's great. You go for 2 Tourmaline alongside it because that's those 2 monsters will give you the best you can get out of the Gemini Fusion monsters. You get Topaz and Prismora thanks to Tourmaline. Prismora, by discarding a Gemini card, you can pop one face-up card on your opponent's side of the field. It's once per turn, but it synergizes well with Gemini Fusion because you can just add back that Gemini Fusion. As for Topaz, it's great because it can attack twice, and when it destroys a monster by battle, you actually burn your opponent's life points equal to the destroyed monster's attack. This synergy is fantastic with Master Diamond, which lets you copy the effect of one Gemini Fusion monster by banishing it from your graveyard. It must be level 7 or lower, so you can of course copy Topaz, you can copy Prismora, basically any Gem Knight except itself, of course, and Lady Brilliant Diamond, which you summon out of Phantom Quartz second effect, the one in which you shuffle back. Because as you need 3 Gem Knight monsters, it's a lot, and you really don't want to commit by fusing monsters from your hand or side of the field. In addition, Lady Brilliant Diamond lets you special summon by attributing 1 Gem Knight monsters you control, including herself if you want. 1 Gem Knight Fusion monsters, except herself, because she can only be special summoned once per turn. You can special summon Master Diamond by attributing basically 1 Gem Knight monsters on your side of the field. You contribute the Phantom Quartz you use to summon Lady Brilliant Diamond, so there's some synergy in there. And then Master Diamond can copy the effect of Topaz. Because Topaz stats aren't the best, you have Master Diamond, which actually can gain attack, 100 for each gem monster in your graveyard, so that counts gem armadillo, which is nice. And so you have basically a bit beater that can attack twice, that will also burn, basically the effect of Topaz. Ruby, you don't have access to it, just pointing the obvious right now because it requires garnets, but as you saw, you can special summon it out of Lady Brilliant Diamond. And from Lapis Lazuli, because Lapis Lazuli lets you send 1 Gem Knight monster from your main deck or extra deck to the graveyard to burn your opponent for 500 damage for each special summoned monsters on both sides of the field. I mean, it doesn't, it adds up. If your opponent has 5 monsters and you have 5, it's going to be a fucking lot of damage. 5,000 that instance. Anyway, moving back to the main deck, because we've already kind of discussed everything there is to be said in the extra deck, because as the focus point, the focal point, the main point is Phantom Quartz, you're gonna need to discuss all the fusion monsters, just saying, but 3 Zirconia, because like it's the easiest monster you get to summon. You summon it out of Block Dragon usually, and Lazuli when you have Brilliant Fusion. Why is Lazuli? Because if your hand allows it, you can maybe, like if you have a Rescue Rabbit for example, go first into Phantom Quartz. And the great thing about both Lazuli and Obsidian is that if they are sent respecting their criteria or condition to activate their effect at the same time as a normal monster, so like if you send for example Brilliant Fusion, you send Lazuli and a normal monster, you can use Lazuli's effect to get back that normal monster to your hand. In this scenario, I was more referring to sending Block Dragon and Lazuli, and if you already send Phantom Quartz and you have normal monsters in your graveyard, you can add them back, so it's some recursion and you kind of plus even more out of Brilliant Fusion, which is fantastic. That also goes if you want to foolish 3 Gem Knight monsters, so Lady Brilliant Diamond or Master Diamond, it works the same. 3 Maxi, I'm really not a big fan of this card because it can be very bricky, but the fact you can banish it out of Block Dragon to summon Block Dragon itself is kind of great, so it's not so bad maining 3 of them. That goes for Prime Cratops too. Crystal Rose is a combo piece of Block Dragon. It allows you to special summon Seraphanite, though I would say Seraphanite is extremely useless in this deck, and it wouldn't be so bad if you wanted to actually remove it to play, say, a rank 8 XYZ monster that you would summon out of 2 Zirconia, so like a Hope Harbinger if you're going first and want to have a negate, and maybe if you just don't want to set droplet, have max in hand past turn, basically. It's very win more and not so useful. I have considered replacing it multiple times, but sometimes it do come handy in normal summoning Armadillo once again. There could be some very awkward scenarios in which you actually get to normal summon twice, like as I said, an Armadillo and a Rescue Rabbit in the same turn, and it's just great to have in your toolbox. Crystal Rose is a card that is that can be very misleading. In fact, it's very easy, but it has an awful wording. Not so awful, but it could have been better. Basically, Crystal Rose, so it has 2 effects. First, the effect it is most well known for is that when it is in the graveyard, you can banish 1 fusion monster from your graveyard, and special summon it. This effect is a hard once per turn, meaning you can only use it once per turn. A soft once per turn is a bit different, and it is its first effect. Its first effect reads as follows: once per turn, you can send 1 Gem Knight or Melodius, but whenever you're not playing Melodius, 1 Gem Knight monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and this card will gain, this card's name will become the one of the card you dumped. So you can dump Lazuli and trigger Lazuli's effect to get back a normal monster from your graveyard and then back to your hand. This effect is a soft once per turn, meaning that if you, say you have Crystal Rose on the field, you special summon it once by its effect, you use that effect to copy the name, okay, alright. Later on, you go into Cross Ship, trigger its effect to special summon a level 4 lower monster from your graveyard, so you special summon another time Crystal Rose. You can use its effect once again, because when you look at Crystal Rose, it is only its second effect that has the restriction you can only use this effect of Crystal Rose once per turn, this effect referring to the one that special summons. So if you somehow get Crystal Rose fucking 4 times on the field, you can dump 4 monsters, but it has to leave the field and get back to it to use it multiple times. Gem Knight Obsidian is a fantastic card that synergizes in a very similar way as Lazuli, but Lazuli is when it is sent to the graveyard by a card effect. Gem Knight Obsidian is when it is sent from the hand to the graveyard. It doesn't miss timing because it is a if. It synergizes with droplets, so if you have normal monsters and send Obsidian to trigger droplet effect to the graveyard from your hand, you'll be able to special summon a level 4 or lower normal monster from your graveyard back onto your field. It doesn't, it's not only Gem Knight monsters, but in this scenario it's only going to be Gem Knight monsters, but keep that in mind, it may be useful for some non-Gem Knight strategies and combos. In addition, as I was saying earlier, if you dump 1 normal monster and Obsidian at the same time with Droplet, you'll be able to trigger Obsidian effect. It's weird, but it works like that. It works the same using Gem Knight Fusion. If you fusion summon and you have no normal monster in your graveyard, send a Lapis and an Obsidian from your hand to the graveyard to fulfill the condition of, say, Lapis Lazuli. You'll be able to use Obsidian effect and summon back that Lapis you used to fusion summon Lapis Lazuli. Gem Armadillo is not a Gem Knight, it is Gem Armadillo. It doesn't synergize with pretty much the entirety of the fusion package, except for Photon Quartz, because it is 2 gem monsters and not 2 Gem Knight monsters, so you can use an Armadillo and it is nice. It is the Stratos of the deck, except it only triggers 1 normal summon, and you can add 1 Gem Knight monster from your deck to your hand. It's decent, but if I had another option, I would definitely not play this. Rescue Rabbit is your easiest way and your go-to Phantom Quartz, a fantastic card again. You're always going to special summon 2 Lapis, because Lapis Lazuli is just so great to enable the OTK that 2 Moline is just win more that you'll summon out of unexpected die, or Rescue Rabbit if you already have a Lapis in your hand. Pancratops, we already discussed it, it's an Earth, so it synergizes with Block Dragon and it's great all around. Block Dragon is fantastic. You're probably familiar with this card because by banishing 3 Earth monster, you get to special summon it from your hand or graveyard. and when sent, doesn't miss timing of course, but when sent from the field to the graveyard, in any way, you get to search rock monsters, not earth, rock monsters, meaning you can of course add crystal rose from your deck to your hand, which total level combined equals to 8. I'll just tell you now, if you have one or more normal monster already in your graveyard or in your hand, you're going to aim to get 2 obsidian and 2 crystal rose. Usually you're going to use block dragon before phantom quartz, because the cards you'll banish out of block dragon, you'll send them back into your deck thanks to phantom quartz. Though be aware that if you already use 2 obsidian, you need to use phantom quartz effect first to get back at least 1 obsidian, because what you'll most often do is get 1 crystal rose and 2 obsidian. In some iffy scenarios, you may aim for like an armadillo, an obsidian, and Leslie if you already have the crystal rose in your hand. It can come up and then you'll extra normal the armadillo, get back another obsidian, because you really want to have as much obsidian as possible. If you don't have a normal monster in your graveyard, or if you don't have an access yet to lapis lazuli, which can happen, get a lapis, an obsidian, and the crystal rose. Or else you may be able to get the lapis out of armadillo if you already have the crystal rose but no lapis. You got it. Gemnite Fusion, we already discussed about it. Absorb Fusion, I wish I didn't have to play this, but because of the limitation of Brilliant Fusion, you don't really have a choice, unfortunately. Same for the limitation of Free Scorpio, which was decent when it was at 3, but now it's at 1 and it's extremely inconsistent. It has some implication with the FTK, we'll get to that in the last part of the video. Absorb Fusion lets you add a Gemnite card from your deck to your hand. It has a second effect that can sometimes save you if you have some bricky hand, because after you've searched that one card, you can fusion summon, but like the fusion materials will be banished. It's not so bad because you can get them back into the deck thanks to Phantom Quartz, but it has no synergy with Gemnite Fusion. Most of the time you're just going to serve the Gemnite Fusion you're missing, so it's all is good for. Why you've never seen this card before, you're like, yeah, it's fantastic, because it has some of the worst restriction ever for Gemnites, because you cannot special summon monsters except Gemnite monsters until for the rest of this turn, meaning it fucks up Block Dragon, Pancratops, Crystal Rose, and if you cross ship as well, and if you have to play an XYZ monster, it also conflicts with that. Unless you're playing Gemnite Pearl, but it's useless. XYZ rank 4, by the way. Unexpected die, well, of course it's to get as fast as possible to Phantom Quartz and to get Lapis. Lightning Storm is just to help you play around Floodgate. Brilliant Fusion, well, it's here to help you FTK if you're going first, and just a very win more card when OTKing second. And if you go second and have Brilliant Fusion, you literally can play through like 5 negates or 5 disruptions, like whatever. It's that fantastic. Forbidden Droplets, well, it synergizes well and it deals with Herald of Perfection and Ultimateness and other kind of balls, but it's really all it's there for. And Red Reboot is great for Illish, as well as the trap cards used in Tri Brigade. That's it for the main deck. Quick word with about Cross Ship and Ruby. Cross Ship is great because it has an effect not everyone is familiar with. Surprisingly, its wording is very off. Similarly to Crystal Rose, you can do stuff you may be not aware that you can, so I'll explain it to you real quick. I'm not gonna go deeply into the wording, just letting you know why it works and how it works. Basically, as you may be aware, if you special summon a monster and it points to a fusion, or like Ritual, Synchro XYZ, you get to activate an effect, depending on whichever monster it points to. Just want to say that it's not the monster you've summoned that should be Fusion, Ritual, Synchro, or XYZ. What I mean is, say you have Cross Ship there, right? There you have a Fusion monster. So it points like that, fusion monster, cross ship. You want to summon a block dragon from the graveyard, and special summon it to a zone that cross ship points to. There you go. So you special summon an effect monster, but cross ship still gonna trigger, because cross ship triggers when a monster is special summoned to a zone it points to, not a ritual, fusion, synchro, or XYZ. It also does when it's one of those kind of monsters, but it's only when something is special summoned there, a monster. Meaning that if it actually points the other way to a fusion monster, in this case, you're actually able to trigger the fusion effect. You can also say special summon a ritual monster or an XYZ monster and trigger the fusion effect of cross ship, because it also points to a fusion. So that's what is important with cross ship. Keep that in mind because it can really help you a lot, and you may not be familiar with it. So it's how it works actually. And as for Ruby, you can't summon it because you don't run Garnet, but it's great because it has some synergy with Phantom Quartz and Lady Brilliant Diamond. Basically it does piercing, 2500 attack, and you can tribute once per turn, tribute one face-up gem, including Gem Armadillo, funnily enough, monster, and it will gain attack equal to the attack of the tributed monster while it was on the field. So it's not original attack, funnily enough. I don't know if it's just if they forget or if it was intended. So like you can maybe pump up like Master Diamond like crazy and tribute it, I mean whatever. What you're most likely going to do is, as the monster fusion summoned by Phantom Quartz cannot attack directly, a basic combo when you don't have a lot of resources and you just want a clean OTK and you have like a Zirconia alongside and say another little monster, or you just want to do piercing against a Crooked Cook, for example, which happened in one of the recently uploaded video. You can so special summon Lady Brilliant Diamond thanks to Phantom Quartz, Lady Brilliant Diamond effect tribute Phantom Quartz, special summon Ruby. As Lady Brilliant Diamond cannot attack directly, effect Ruby tribute Lady Brilliant Diamond. Ruby will now be a monster that does piercing, which will be 5900 attack, so I guess it's pretty decent, right? That's kind of it for the deck profile. I tried to make it a lot quicker, and it was indeed a lot quicker. I don't know if I'll be able to do any cuts, because I spoke like a crazy motherfucker at full pace. It's 3 AM, my neighbors will probably want to butcher me, but whatever. I just want to do one last thing before I stop this video, is just to show you a bit my way of thinking while playing. Please note that going second, this deck is extremely win more. Like there's no reason really to commit a lot, but it's just funny to just do a complete overkill and special summon a lot of monsters, do a lot of burns when it's not necessarily needed. If you're actually going to a tournament, I would advise you to, yes, go win more, but not overcommit on the field. Just go win more on your hand. Like, try to keep as much material in your hand as possible and utilize what you have on the field as best as possible. Just so that if for some reason you fail your OTK, because your opponent just stopped you, and either way there was no way you'd have OTK'd your opponent because like that card he had, like you just couldn't play around it, you still have material for the next turn to actually retry and redo that OTK. So that's what is important. So we're going to move to the app you've seen last time, which is, sorry, bit of a small lag, which is Either Pro. So I ran into what is quite possibly the funniest way of fucking up a recording, being that I forgot to switch the placement of the webcam, which was on the right side of the screen instead of being on the left side of the screen, meaning you couldn't see the entirety of my hand. And okay, I described quite decently the situation and stuff, but I mean, I just don't want to give you guys a poorly done video, so we're back actually not post-editing, but meanwhile editing the video, doing again the hand testing part and the basic plays going second. So no opponent, 6 cards in hand. As you can see, it is indeed the deck list that I presented to you guys. So here we are. That hand, funnily enough, is way better than the one I had. Oh, not really. It's a decent one. I mean, the other, I couldn't play around much. This one I can play around more stuff, yet there's not going to be... I won't have any more resources if I somehow fail the OTK. That was one big part I explained, that you really want to kind of save some resources in case your opponent somehow has a card that you definitely did not expect him to have. And yeah, it was it can matter sometimes, so yeah. Whatever, you're going to... I mean, I'm assuming you're using all those 3 cards to actually disrupt your opponent, so they really don't matter. We're going to special summon Tourmaline thanks to Unexpected Die, because we're not using German Armadillo, but we are using Rescue Rabbit. You could use Gem Armadillo, it wouldn't be a shame to use, I'd say, because you could grab an Obsidian, but quite frankly, in terms of resources, it wouldn't really matter anyway. So let's just move on and grab that Gem Knight Fusion. In this scenario, it's not a hand that is very strong. It's strong in a way that you'll get the OTK, you'll get to clean your opponent's board, but it's going to... You're not gonna do a plethora of damage, as I explained early on. Like, you could deal sometimes some crazy amount, like 16,000 of damage in one turn. You're gonna deal the 8,000 needed, but clearly not more. So, continuing, looking at the graveyard, so yeah, we have 2 normal monsters. Right now, we're in a situation in which it's not a very pleasant situation, if we're honest. We're kind of forced to go into Zirconia. Not that I like it a lot, but there's no other choice. That's why it would have been great to summon Gem Armadillo, but then again, you wouldn't have such field presence, neither you'd have access to a lot of normal monsters, so it would have been quite odd, yet again. It pretty much doesn't matter what you banish right now. The fact that matter is, you're most likely gonna not gonna get you're not gonna have the access to Lapis Lazuli. Doesn't really matter again, because Lightning Storm should have helped you clear the what's it called again? The either the back rows or the field, the monsters in the field. It really depends on the board, but let's assume there's no monster. It's very difficult to actually figure out a scenario, a precise scenario. All I can say, quite frankly, is if this hand can deal with pretty much everything, which is really nice when you think about it. Moving on, in this scenario there's not much choice but to use a Phantom Quartz effect and to summon, so it depends. It depends on if your opponent has monsters with a lot of defense, it depends if you're... I mean, you can technically go into Lapis Lazuli, do some burn, get back some monsters, continue fusion summoning, go into Prismora, go into Topaz afterwards. You can directly go into Lady Brilliant Diamond, which will allow you to go into Ruby, which was my play in the first instance, because I was assuming there would be no monster in the field, and Ruby plus Zirconia is just enough damage output, so that's a win scenario. There's actually a lot of plays you can do depending on the scenarios I was saying. The basic play I was referring to using Ruby last time, I'm going to show you right now, and after we're going to test one more hand to actually really grasp the idea on, or at least my perspective as to how I like to play the deck and how I think it functions well. This one is very basic because there's not a lot of ways you actually have to get the OTK. Still, you can adapt it a little bit, but that's one way. Second hand, oh my fucking god, that hand is fucking broken, by the way. Like, that is ridiculous. The only issue is I can't really target, because like right now, genuinely right now, I'm unexpected dying into unexpected dying. Whatever. I go unexpected die into tourmaline. Then I forbidden droplets and obsidian lapis. Obsidian trigger special summon lapis, for example. But there's also brilliant fusion, so that's really broken. Actually, you get rid of one card. You get rid of pretty much. You get rid of the droplet, for example. You get rid of the, and even the generate fusion. As long as you have brilliant fusion and not even those two cards. I mean, unexpected die, obsidian, and brilliant fusion. I mean, that's an FTK. That's that great. So I'm quite glad because I'm actually gonna be able to showcase you guys the power of brilliant fusion and how you actually play with it. So fantastic hand and fantastic scenario in that instance. You don't use brilliant fusion so early on. Just saying, it's not worth it. In this scenario, because you're gonna use the Zirconia special summon out of Brilliant Fusion to go into Phantom Quartz, you can directly go into Lapis Lazuli, which is nice, and it's always a card that people are afraid of, for good reasons of course, but like, in this scenario, that's really not what you should be afraid of, like for real. It's true, you should really not be afraid of it. And I said I was going to go to use Zirconia's effect. Zirconia's effect. It's not an effect monster. As I was saying it, I'm gonna use it to go into Phantom Quartz. It's just wrong. There's a way better play that I just completely forgot to do. But you directly go into Phantom Quartz. Search, I mean, just an obsidian. Not going to search anything else. You can have access to Block Dragon. So thing is, I will use Phantom Quartz effect. No, yeah, okay. So it's going to be a no-quad play. I'm going to explain in a second. So you're gonna grab obsidian, but you're gonna use Phantom Quartz effect after having special summon Block Dragon, but before using Block Dragon's effect of searching a plethora of rock monsters. Why is that? Because as there's already an obsidian in the graveyard, I wouldn't be able to search the 2 obsidian I explicitly said that was required, or I mean that's just mandatory to search 2 obsidian and a crystal rose. So I wouldn't be able to do that yet. I mean, that's just too good to pass, so that's how you're gonna actually do it. Viewing the graveyard, yes, I can banish an obsidian to get back my Generate Fusion. You're gonna use the Generate Fusion effect right now. And why did I Phantom Quartz first? It's because, as I was saying in the ratio discussion, you can oh yeah, it's not already inside on masterduel. I completely forgot Block Dragon and Lazuli, and Lazuli will trigger to get me back 1 resource. I kind of a misplay to place that here, considering no, not really. I was considering cross ship already, but I'm gonna use cross ship a bit later. Anyway, as you already went into Lapis Lazuli, you can just get Tourmaline. It can only be summoned once per turn, so whatever. It really doesn't matter at this point. So I could banish. Not yet. So it's going to be very iffy, but you're going to understand like the order in which you actually use Block Dragon, because it's Block Dragon banishing 3 Earth monster is actually quite costly. Surprisingly enough, for I think many people, like you wouldn't be. Yeah, I think a lot of people would be quite shocked that it actually takes some thinking, because back then the Generate FTK was very linear, and I mean there wasn't really a lot of thinking to do. It was just always the same thing. Right now it's a bit different, so resource management is a bit tougher. Get whichever you want. You get Prismora if you wanted to pop a card. Let's say you won't. I mean, we're not gonna do it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like at this point, usually just summon big monsters to get burned out of Lapis Lazuli, so yeah, it's pretty all there is to be said. Yeah, get back this, so you get your Tourmaline. Ready, whatever. That's one back, and you should be able to use Block Dragon effect quite well right now. Yes, you are. Though, there's already a monster in the field. Also, I could go into... That's going to be a tricky one. That's going to be a tricky one, because there's one more monster in the field that I wasn't expecting to have, which is Tourmaline. Thank you having multiple obsidian, it just makes things even better. So I can actually use Gemlight Fusion once more and get a fusion monster on the graveyard faster than I expected. Why is it nice? Because it's going to be even less thinking to actually use Crystal Rose later on, so thank you. Simply go Zirconia to Zirconia, or yeah, just going to Topaz, whatever. There, and I'm going to leave that zone in case I want to trigger Cross Ship early on, but it's very unlikely. So I don't know if we view the graveyard, yeah, okay. What we're precisely going to do is banish the Zirconia. Why did I say I'm going to have one extra fusion monster? I wasn't expecting to get into Topaz so early. It's always nice. Banishing for Block Dragon. Always keep one normal monster in the graveyard. That's better, as I was saying. Honestly, you could get rid of it. Wouldn't really matter. As I was saying, Crystal Rose and shenanigans and such, but there's so much resource going on right now that I much prefer banishing the fusion monster. You're not gonna use the effect here. Instead, you're going to use Phantom Quartz right now. Special summon the Lady Brilliant Diamonds. You're gonna shuffle back one of your obsidian, another one of your obsidian, and you're gonna shuffle back Lazuli. Fantastic. Right now you're in a much better place. You're still not gonna use the effect of Gemlight Fusion because else you'd lose your normal monster. You're gonna instead tribute one monster, say Topaz. Probably was whatever here. Summon Master Diamonds. Effect of Lavis Lazuli. You're gonna dump Lazuli, inflict a lot of burn. Get back your Tourmaline. It's really whatever yet again. You can actually grab back your fusion, Gemlight Fusion, as I was saying. One more fusion monster in the graveyard. I think you can go into Cross Ship right now, but is it necessary? You're not gonna use its effect of special summoning right now. I mean, it's just gonna stay on the field, so I guess you can do that. So you're gonna search for Crystal Rose, Obsidian. That's just dumb. It's ridiculous how many resources you have access to. I think now you kind of understand what I was saying, like, you have a lot of resources and it's not even funny. You could already summon the other Master Diamond, which would be actually hilarious, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So, you're going to go into, obviously, Tourmaline, I'm going to go into Lapis Lazuli, I'm going to go into Obsidian. And that's already, no, you don't even have to. Okay, so I fucked up because I couldn't use, oh yeah, I need to change. Thank you, Ida Pro. Thank you for ruining my life. Actually, I don't care because I can just, Fusion. Yeah, because if I want to chain, yes, we'll just, do you want to activate any effect? Not just which chain you want. Yeah, okay. So basically, like, it's not very well done in the pro. I thought it was asking me, do I want to use Cross Ship effect? I was like, no, I don't even want to use it. I want to use the Obsidian effect. Didn't let me to because I needed to click yes. And afterwards, I would have chosen which effect I wanted to use. Could have used both, by the way. One wouldn't have resolved because the monsters would have been full, but whatever. We're in a situation in which resources don't really matter anymore, so yeah. Whatever you want to summon, you can. So let's say I'm going to special summon Seraphanite. Not even using the Obsidian effect. Oh, that's so shameful. Should be ashamed of that, but whatever. That's literally game. Banish lazuli, effect, send... lapis lazuli, I should say. Send the other lapis lazuli, burn. Send the other again. Why you don't play Upstart Goblin in it? Well, you could technically deal, like I'm going to do, 9,000 of burn, is that it's not always the case. When you don't have Brilliant Fusion, it doesn't... it's not the case. Usually you do just like 8,000, like 8,500 at most. So yeah, Upstart Goblin could fuck you up. You could play Contract with down 1,000. It's like the funniest deck card ever, because it reduces your opponent's life point by 1,000, and it kind of allows you to FTK with less good hands. Still, you got the idea as to how to play the deck, so getting back to the last part of the recording in which I discuss about the FTK, and I'm not re-recording it because I think I did a great job last time. I will say it now, if you're ever facing a Gem Knight FTK, whatever Gem Knight FTK it is, except for 3-axis Gem Knight FTK, but that's very different because it's not a Gem Knight deck. If you're facing a Gem Knight deck that goes first, and that is actually FTKing you, don't panic. If you have Ash Blossom, Impermanence, any negate, Veiler, wait until the very last Master Diamond Summon. The FTK, just saying it now, that's the last part of the video I wanted to discuss a bit with you, because it's the most famous Gem Knight build available, and it has been for a long time. First, it's not worth building. The OTK is much better, even though it's kind of bricky, but like the FTK is... It's not more bricky, but it's less... It just dies to one trap, it's way less resilient. When you face an FTK, you have to know that there are 3 steps in the burning process. First, the first summon of Lapis Lazuli, which is going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be the second step, which is Master Diamond, banish Lapis Lazuli, copy its effect, burn again. You should be left with 2,000 life points at this point. The last step is summon the second copy of Master Diamond and copy by banishing another Lapis Lazuli that you've sent from either like the first Lapis Lazuli, like Lapis Lazuli and Lapis Lazuli, or else if your opponent needed more resources, he may have done what I usually do, which is Lapis Lazuli, send Lazuli get back something, and then you tribute the Lapis Lazuli on board with Brilliant Diamond, especially from the Master Diamond, meaning you have that copy of Lapis Lazuli to banish, Master Diamond effect, that, I mean, basically it's again Lapis Lazuli, but Lapis Lazuli will now send another Lapis Lazuli, because Lapis Lazuli, similarly to Lady Brilliant Diamond, can only be special summoned once per turn. Which is kind of funny in a way, because it just, I mean, it's completely bypassed by Master Diamond, but whatever. Wait until the very last Master Diamond effect, because Lapis Lazuli's effect can be Ash Blossom, in fact, because it can send here from your main deck. I mean, you can just imperm it, and there is no conceivable way your opponent will be able to FTK you if you actually negated the last one. I'm specifically saying the last one because if you negate the first or the second, depending on the amount of resources your opponents have, especially if he had access to Block Dragon, he may be able to recycle one Lapis Lazuli and use it like 3 times. Your opponents though would need to play 3 Master Diamond and 3 Lazuli, or at least 2 Master Diamond but 3 Lapis Lazuli. It's unlikely, I only played 2 of both of them, and someone already stopped my FTK using a well-timed Ash Blossom at the very end, and that was well played, because you've committed enough. Like this third summon of Master Diamond, especially if you didn't have access to Block Dragon, is extremely costly in resources, and usually you'll end up having no resources at all, being able to FTK, so that shouldn't matter, but you by that point have committed way too much, and if you get stopped, you are basically doomed. Unless, again, you had access to Block Dragon and you manage your resource like a crazy motherfucker. Why the FTK isn't great, as I said, All-Free Scorpio is limited. Lone Fire Blossom is, yes, certainly at 3 copies, but Brilliant Fusion is also limited. Let me get back to... no, not that, not that scene. Yeah, my bad. Managing OBS may not be the easiest thing for me, apparently. All-Free Scorpio is indeed limited, Lone Fire Blossom certainly at 3, but like Brilliant Fusion is limited. Meaning that, yeah, okay, you could play 3 Block Dragon or Foolish Burial, but trust me, Block Dragon, when you see it in your hand, you just want to fucking try. Usually, because unless you have a good hand, like very great hand, Block Dragon is going to be a dead card. Especially when you're going first and you have only 5 cards in hand. Like, it's very difficult to actually use it. You can, of course you can, but it's going to result in very awkward scenarios in which you'll most likely die to 1 entrapped prior to actually being able to utilize Block Dragon, and if you get entrapped, you can sometimes and most often play around it, but you're never going to be able to FTK. You're just going to be in a very awkward situation in which you can summon, special summon some monsters, but like it's no FTK. And if you go second, it's usually much better because, I mean, Gem Knight monsters, they have some crazy stat lines, so it's not so bad if you open it going second, but going first, it's definitely terrible if you get interrupted a bit too much. So I did FTK with Block Dragon and no Brilliant Fusion. It's even possible to FTK with Crystal Rose in your opening hand, or even nothing at all by utilizing Cross Ship, but you need to have you need to open God hand. So it's not very common. It depends. Honestly, I'd say like there's I'd say 30% chance. I could do the math. I didn't, but I could. There's I would say 25 to 30% chance you're actually able to FTK going first with this deck list. But yeah, just go second. If you go first, yeah, just remove the Seraphonite, which is the less useful card in this deck. A great toolbox to extra normal Modilo, but usually just whatever. Get rid of the Seraphonite and play like Hope Harbinger, there's one XYZ monster that was released like 10 years ago that's a target of ace-up cards. It negates its effect, but it's unaffected. And for the rest of these two, I don't remember the name. There's another card that does similarly. There's the Photon XYZ that negates monster effect, I believe. There's a lot of cards that actually negate Zombie Stein as well. Just play it. It's going to be better if you want. I didn't opt to go for it, but it's definitely whatever. You should though keep those 3 monsters, Ruby, Topaz, and Prismora. They're great. Yeah, FTK doesn't really work also for one of the reasons. It sure is consistent, but it dies to 1 entrap, and there's not enough resources available right now to actually go and play exchange, drag down, and I don't think cross designator is enough. In addition, playing cross designator will make the deck way less consistent, and quite frankly, it's still very bricky. And will it resolve so often? And not really. There's not many starters actually to Gem Knight FTK right now. There's four direct starters, being the Lone Fire Blossom and the All-Free Scorpio. And again, as I said, opening Block Dragon can be it, but it's not so often. Brilliant Fusion plus Rescue Rabbit is the FTK. Brilliant Fusion plus Unexpected Die plus any Gem Knight is also the FTK. But yeah, it's really not so great. Especially if you like open Brilliant Fusion plus like Crystal Rose, you get some very awkward situation in which the FTK build cannot necessarily get around. You don't have the versatility and the adaptability that Absorb Fusion gives you, even though it has some crazy restrictions. So please avoid the FTK. If you desperately want me to actually try and build a proper FTK version, I can do it. Not the 3-axis version, because it's not really pure Gem Knight. I can build an FTK version, but not that the FTK version if you go second, you're fucking doomed. Like, there's no way you play going second. Just saying. Because you're not going to play Lightning Storm, you're not going to play, of course, you're not going to play Dark World in the Mall, because playing Dark World in the Mall, you can't neither OTK nor FTK. And yeah, as I said, Lightning Storm is going to be dead card. Cards such as Red Reboot are it's very weird. So yeah, that was about it for the deck profile. If you really despise Absorb Fusion, what I could recommend you is getting rid of the Red Reboot, as well as, of course, the Absorb Fusion, and play Courser Designator. Courser Designator and maybe one Nibiru. Please note that Nibiru synergizes with the deck, and even if you get Nibiru, usually your opponents will not wait long enough. Just saying again, but if you're facing Gem Knights, we are never summoning something that negates. It's just never. Ever. Some people will maybe. I tried, it's possible, but you need a great hand. Not so much, but it's iffy. Sometimes if you really have a great hand going first and FTKing, you can go into the photon that negates monster effect and therefore negates hand traps by special summoning 2 Zirconias, and going second you can also do that. Like going second, you really fear hand traps, not really, you fear cards on the board, and droplets, Lightning Storm, Red Reboot actually are the one dealing with that. So Courser Designator, yeah, you could, but it's really not as great as Forbidden Droplet, especially considering it synergizes with Obsidian and Leslie. Red Reboot again, preventing those ill-ish plays. And Tri Brigade. That was it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. It's still 40 minutes long. I am extremely sorry about that, but I think I did a much better job than the previous one, especially considering my English was less broken than the other. Surprising, because it is fucking 3 AM. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Please note that, yeah, tomorrow's video is certainly about the FTK combo. The next deck profile might just be a Crooked Cook Exodia decklist. Why is that? Because I just couldn't find any decklist that I actually liked. So, there you go, I hope you liked it, and I'll catch you guys later. See you all.